Hello and welcome to episode 38 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria, your host, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as M. Monska. The show notes for this week's episode and hopefully last week's will be available at stitchedinsweden.blogspot.com. And you can join us in the Ravelry group if you would like, which is just called Stitched in Sweden. So welcome to this episode. I have been a little bit busy with school and preparing for the end of the term, sort of. It's not really the end. But I thought that I would pop in today and show you a little bit of what I've been working on. Some of the things that I have knit this past week or so are no longer here because they were gifts that I sent out on Thursday. But I will put in some pictures so that you can see what I'm talking about. And yeah. So I will start out with a little bit, I think I'm going to save this week in Stockholm till the end this week, but I'll start out with some works in progress. So this week I have been working on the quadri hat, which is a pattern that I talked about last week. I think it's by Michelle Wong. And this is a cable hat pattern, which comes in two different sizes. There's a small size and then a medium large. And the small size is more of a fitted beanie, and the medium large is sort of drapey. Slouchy, I guess, not drapey. I am knitting this for a friend, and I have decided to knit the small size, but I'm going to make it slouchy. So there's a couple less stitches that you cast on for the small size. So I did that, but I will use the top part of the slouchier one. So here it is. And I just cast this on yesterday. I had a bit of a frustrating afternoon when my exam that I was supposed to have yesterday was postponed until Tuesday. And normally that might be a good thing if you think you have a little more time to study, but we only have one weekend in between when we start new classes. So this weekend, now it's Saturday, should be like totally free. Instead, I'm thinking, should I be studying more? That kind of thing. Anyway, I needed to cast something on to relax and enjoy working on, and so I picked up this hat. And I really love this pattern. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Purple Needle had asked in the group if I had a pattern that I went back to again and again to knit, and I said no because I usually only knit patterns once, but this is the third time that I am knitting this hat, so maybe this is one of them that I like to go back to for sure. And there's another one that I'll talk about in a little bit as well. So I'm knitting this in some lovely purple yarn that was gifted to me by a friend, and this is from a Finnish dyer, and I have showed this yarn before. I used this basic sock for my small shawlette size of my succulent shawl pattern, and it was kind of a gray with it's just such a range of color and just depth of color, as is the same with this purple. There's blues and more pinkish purples, and yeah, it's really beautiful. It's fingering weight, and this pattern, the quadri hat, calls for worsted weight, but I don't really have worsted weight very often in my stash, so I decided to hold this yarn double. And how I do that is I caked this up. It's kind of, gotten a little bit out of shape at this point because I'm pulling one strand from the center and one strand from the outside, and that has been working so far pretty well. I haven't run into any tangly mess yet. And I think that because this hat won't use all of the yarn, I will not have a problem at the end where the inside will have collapsed too much and that it would become a huge mess. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. I think I'll be able to finish the hat and then wind off the rest and just make a new ball or a cake from that so it doesn't get tangled. But it's really nice to knit on. When you have this sort of fingering weight held double, you get more of a kind of just a different texture in the stitches than you get when you have only a single strand of yarn. And I'm really enjoying it. I think it will look really nice once it's blocked, and I will probably add a pom-pom to this. I'll definitely add a pom-pom to it. I don't know if it will be a yarn pom-pom or if it will be a fake fur pom-pom, but it will be something, I think. So I will try to have that finished probably in the next couple of days so that I can send it to its recipient. The next thing that I worked on this week is my colorwork sweater that I have showed you before. I had knit the sleeves previously, and those are still finished, still here. I haven't cut the steek or anything yet. This is a pattern that I am improvising from the Ashland pullover, which is a pattern in Brooklyn tweed. I don't know who it's by. I don't remember who the designer is, but it's from Brooklyn tweed. And I'm using the pattern for the sweater as sort of the main structure, I guess, pattern for it, and then I am improvising the colorwork design. The pattern in Brooklyn tweed is also, Ashland is what the pattern is also a colorwork sweater, but the colorwork didn't appeal to me so much, so I decided to make my own designs. So those are the sleeves. I had those finished before, but I hadn't cast on the body because I knew that I had a long tubular cast on to do with a lot of stitches, and that just really, it only took sitting down and working on it for 10 minutes or something to get it started. But it was sort of enough that it was preventing me from just casting on directly. So on Thursday, after I finished my first part of the exam, it was a two-day exam. On Thursday, after I finished the exam, I decided to cast on the body. And that's how much I have knit so far. It's going really well. This is knit in Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is the fingering weight yarn from Brooklyn Tweed. And I'm using 5 different colors. Fossil is the background color, this nice white oatmeal. Then this is Postcard, which is a really nice light purple. This is Blanket Fort, which is a really pretty medium purple. Here is Truffle Hunt, and this brighter green is Sap. So that has been a lot of fun to work on. It's going really quickly because now that I have it on the needles, I mean, it's really fun to do because these colorwork sections are anywhere from 4 rows, 7 rows, 4, and then this one is a 5-row colorwork section, and then I have 3 rows of the cream fossil in between, so I can sort of sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna do one section or one part of the colorwork, and it just seems like it's going really quickly. I am modifying the shaping for this sweater a bit. In the pattern, the shaping occurs on the side seams, but I have decided to move the shaping to the like quarter point on the fronts and the third points on the back, if that makes sense. So I have 4 points of decrease, and it occurs like 1/4 of the stitches over, 1/4 of the stitches over, so you have half the stitches in the middle on the front, and then on the back it's split into thirds and you decrease on 2 of those points. That is how custom fit sweaters are shaped usually, which is from Amy Herzog, and I think that it makes for a nice fitting sweater because the decreases, the way the decreases are, and that they're not 2 decreases happening on the edge of each side, that you get more of a 3D shape of a sweater instead of flat, because your body isn't flat, so why would you knit a flat sweater kind of thing. I'm sort of creating a side seam. You can maybe see there that I have 2 stitches which I always knit in the white, and then I start the pattern over again, and that will continue up the sweater. And I'm doing my decreases in the white portions of the sweater, so I'm doing it on the second row of the 3 rows that I do in between each of the colorwork sections, so that I don't mess up the colorwork part with adding a decrease suddenly. That means that they're happening at less regular intervals, but it's fine, I think. So I am definitely enjoying this. I love knitting with Brooklyn Tweed yarn. I know that not everyone does, and I've never had a problem. I've never broken the yarn while knitting with it. It is delicate, I guess you could say. Every time that I start a new color, I just pull off the other color. I don't need to use scissors, so you can see my ends are in here. I don't use scissors when I'm pulling those off, so it does break fairly easily, but I guess I just don't have a really high tension on the yarn when I'm knitting with it, so it's never broken for me. And I really like it because you get a nice sort of fuzzy end when you just rip it apart. If you need to attach a new ball of yarn, for example, I've used a couple of balls of the white color, then you can just get to the end and splice it really easily. So you just take the 2 strands and put them together and rub them with a little bit of water or spit, and that works really well. So they become felted together basically. So I'm really, like I said, really enjoying knitting that, and I think that it will be done probably this year or in the beginning of next year, but I definitely have put it aside a bit because I suddenly had to do Christmas knitting, which of course I didn't have to do, but I wanted to do and was having fun with it, so yeah, there we go. The other thing that I worked on this week is Thomas's socks that he started knitting. I talked about this a little bit last week, and these are on my lovely new sock blocker that my friend Carrie sent me because she doesn't knit socks very much anymore, and she said that she wanted to send it to me. So how sweet is that, with little sheep? Quite cute. Thank you, Carrie. And this is a sock. This is the first one. I don't know if I had it finished last time, but here it is. And the second one is still a work in progress. I don't know why, because I really could have had it finished with just a couple minutes of work, but I was knitting this in class last week, and I got to the point of the toe decreases, and I wasn't sure what I had done on the first sock, and I needed to sort of count the toe decreases before I am able to finish this one off, but I should probably do that this week so that I can get these finished. The other the other project I've been working on this week is the ribbed socks for Thomas's dad. And I don't know if I had these cast on last time. I think so. I think that oh yeah, I did, because I was at the heel turn and I was waiting to see if I could figure out a way to do a reinforced heel flap and heel turn, not just the flat part. So these are a little bit bigger for the blocker, but still you get the idea that these are plain navy blue 2x2 ribbed socks with a taller cuff, because his dad wanted a taller cuff and Thomas prefers a pretty short cuff. So, and I did do a reinforced heel, and the heel turn is also reinforced. Basically how I did that is I just continued doing the slip stitch pattern that I used for the heel turn, or for the heel flap. I used that for the heel turn as well. And it was pretty self-explanatory, I guess. It wasn't hard. I think that if I were to do it again on another pair of socks, I would continue that slip stitch down maybe to maybe here, like maybe until the point where I stop doing the gusset decreases, because right now it's kind of just on the very tip of the heel, which might help a little bit, but perhaps it would have been better to continue it a little bit into the foot. So the first sock is done, and I have not cast on the second sock yet because I sort of have been saving it and planning to knit it during class this upcoming week, during my sort of last week of class before Christmas. And then I've been knitting on other gifts during the rest of the time. So because it's a sort of easy project that I can do in class, I thought I would just save it for that. And I'm knitting those on some Clover and bamboo needles. These are Clover 2mm needles, double pointed. They're 16 centimeters long, and I really enjoyed that. The yarn for those is Yaku 416, and it is in the navy blue color, which is color number 1710. So that is those socks, and I'm sure that I will at least get them started and probably mostly knit this week in class. I hope so. Anyway, that's the plan. The rest of my projects are now actually finished. Things that I worked on this week, have become finished projects, and like I said, some of them are not here to show you, but some of them are, so I will start with those. The first project that I finished is my quadri hat, and this is the first one that I did, and I knit it for myself using some really nice rustic Swedish wool that I got at a wool festival in the beginning of the year, in I think February sometime. And I knit the medium large size, and I'll just put this up for you so that you can see how it looks. I really like it, and I think the pom-pom is a lot of fun. I don't usually like hats, and I don't usually wear pom-poms, but I really like this one, and it has a nice fluffy pom-pom, which is fake fur. Some people were concerned, but it's fake. So, I think there's some really nice alpaca pom-poms that are made from alpaca wool, but I found this one at a craft store here, and I got it. So it has not been that cold this week, so I haven't really been wearing this, but it will be really nice to have in my bag, especially when I get out of school and it's colder when I'm going home in the evenings. So yes, there is that. Now that I'm looking at it, I realize like I have a pretty big ladder down one of the sides right here, but you don't notice it so much when it's just, when I'm not stretching it out there. But I think that's because I knit this on Magic Loop, and because I talked about last time how I don't enjoy using 16-inch circulars, and yeah, whatever. So I knit this hat on Magic Loop, and I find it really difficult to begin with a purl when you're magic looping, so I think that's why I have that kind of little bulge there. But I think it's fine. So yes, this was the first project that I finished this week. Another project that I had showed you this one last week, but I also finished another quadri hat, and I have the yarn right here. It's Onion Knit Camel and Merino, and it is a yarn that's made in Italy. This is color number 904, and it's a 50-gram ball, which is about 110 meters, and I had 2 of these balls, and I have maybe half of the second one left. So it's a single ply yarn, and it's really soft. It's 70% merino, I think. Yeah, 70% merino and 30% camel. Really soft, nice to work with, and it made a really pretty hat that I will put in a picture of it here. I added a pom-pom to this one as well, as you can see, and I think that the recipient will really enjoy it. So that was nice, a nice quick project to do, and I cast that on directly after finishing my first quadri hat. I got that yarn also at a wool festival in Stockholm. Not really a wool festival, it's called the Sewing Festival, but they have yarn there sometimes. Oh, they do have yarn there, but I don't always go to it. Anyway, I've had that yarn for a little while, so it was nice to knit that up and be using the yarn that I have. So that was my second finished object this week. The third project that I finished this week was also a hat, which is kind of strange because I rarely knit hats because I don't like to wear them, and yeah, I just don't like knitting them because I don't have needles that I really enjoy working with them on, because I don't really like doing magic loop for that wide of a circumference, and I haven't found some small diameter circular needles that work for me for knitting hats. But it seems like that's all I've been knitting lately, which is fine and fun, because they go quickly and turn out nice, and other people like to wear them, so they're good gifts, I think. But like I said, the third thing that I worked on this week and finished in one day was another rose red hat. It's a pattern by Isolde Teague, and last week I told you about and showed you, or maybe I didn't. No, I don't remember if I showed you it. When I don't podcast every week, I forget what I said in the week before. So it was the rose red hat. I knit it out of the Angora wool yarn that I got at Loop, which was made and dyed in Scotland. It was black yarn. And I knit the rose red hat, which is sort of a beret type hat, for Thomas's mom, which I think she already knows that. Anyway, I have the package here that I'll just show you because I think it's It's pretty. It's a lot of fun to wrap packages in brown paper, and then I have a little washi tape with some kind of winter-inspired themes, and then I just use some red paint and red yarn to finish it off. So the hat's in that package, but I'm not going to unwrap it. Anyway, I finished that hat last week, and I cast on another one this week in the Misty Alpaca hand paint baby Surrey silk, and this is 80% baby alpaca and 20% silk. This yarn was gifted to me by a lovely viewer and friend of the podcast, and I just have a bit left. This was also a 200 meter skein, and I don't know if you can see the label very well. There you go. So this was really fun to knit also. It's crazy colors and very variegated, which I don't typically knit with that much, but I think that it worked well for this hat, and I will also show you a picture of it here. So I knit this hat for my grandma, and I have sent that to her, so hopefully they will be getting that maybe before Christmas, but who knows with the post. But yeah, the thing that I did differently for this hat is that instead of doing the lace panels that are in the top part of the hat, the hat itself has kind of these, when you look at it from the top, there's sort of a 5 leaves, I guess, that come together in the point that's the very top of the hat. And in the original pattern, those leaves have a lace motif within them. So the previous 2 times that I've knit this hat, again, this is the 3rd time I've knit this hat, so purple needle, now you know that I have 2 hat patterns, which apparently I go back to again and again. So for my previous 2 times, I did do that lace panel motif within those leaves, but for this one, because the yarn was very variegated, I decided just to keep it stockinette on those leaves, and yeah, I'm really happy with how it came out. But the final project that I finished this week is one that I'm so excited about, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. And now I'm just waiting for it to be cold enough to wear it outside, which perhaps might be tonight because it's Saturday. Did I say it was Sunday before? It's Saturday. Anyway, Thomas is at school working on a project, and later tonight I will meet him in the city to walk around a bit, maybe look at some of the Christmas markets, and we will probably get dinner, and then we're going to go see the new, I guess it's not that new anymore, but the Hunger Games movie. And today it's only been right around 0, so it's probably warm enough that I could wear this. So I might do that. Anyway, here it is. This is my Wheaton wrap, which I have been showing you for, I think I looked that I had cast this on September 1st. It's quite a little stack here, and it's really long. It's about 19 inches wide this way, and it's about this much taller than me, and I'm 167 centimeters or 5'6". So yeah, there's really no good way to show this to you. This is still folded in half, but I will just insert a picture here too because it's easier, that I posted on Instagram earlier in the week of me wearing it. And you can see, like, you've seen this before, that there's little sections of lace and little bits of cables. And I did use almost all 5 skeins. I just have a tiny bit left of the Brooklyn Tweed Loft, again, in the Long John's colorway. So, yeah. I couldn't be more happy about that. And that's the first time I've ever knit a scarf, I'm pretty sure. And I wouldn't say that it was the most enjoyable thing to knit just because it was so long, but it was a nice project to have in the background, and the finished object is just lovely. And I know that I will get a lot of use out of it, and it makes me want to consider casting on another scarf. Yeah. We'll see. I might need to give it a little bit of time first, but anyway, it was a lot of, it was fun to knit, and it was really satisfying to have it finished. So now I think I will take a little time to answer some questions that have been on the question and answers thread for a while. Sheeps3 asked about sweater fits and how I managed to knit sweaters that fit me well, and if I had any recommendations for books or tutorials and things like that. I think one of the most important things for knitting sweaters that fit you is to, first of all, know your gauge and to measure your body and be actually aware of your measurements so that you can make decisions about your sweater and how you want it to fit. So, of course, knitting a swatch is useful. It's a great time to just get a first sort of feeling for how the yarn knits up, how it will feel once it's washed. See if it grows any, or if it's, changes texture. Some yarns sort of bloom a lot once you wash the swatch, and so they can really sort of change your finished fabric, which is good to know before you spend time and money knitting an entire sweater. Once you know your stitches per inch, then it's important to know your inches or centimeters, whatever, of your body. And you can probably measure yourself, but it is easier to have someone else measure you. I think probably the most important places to measure are your upper bust, so with the measuring tape right up in your armpits and around not your widest point. Your bust measurement can be useful, but usually I use my upper bust when I'm deciding what size sweater I'm going to knit. The length of the side of your torso is important to know, and it's also important to know the distance from your armpit to your narrowest point, and then your narrowest point to your hip, or the bottom part where you want the hem of the sweater to hit. Those are important measurements. What else? Those are the main ones. Also, this distance here is a little bit harder to measure, I think, and what I find more useful when I'm trying to get a good measurement for the yoke depth, or the sleeve hole depth, is to take a sweater that I know fits me, either store-bought or one that I've knitted, and measure it with the sweater lying flat on a flat surface, and just measure that distance flat. That way you don't have this, question of where should you start, like in the middle of your armpit, or, What else about sweater fitting? I've learned how to do sweater fitting, I guess, from taking Amy Herzog's Craftsy class. I have also, I think I have learned a lot from knitting from well-written patterns. I think the Jared Flood patterns are all very well written and have a lot of detail about, not so much about how to make it fit you, but they have different ideas about how sweaters can be adjusted to help fit someone better. So for example, adding short rows to the back to raise the neck, and all of those types of things are really detailed in the patterns, so you know where on the sweater you should add them and things like that. Other than that, though, it really comes from a lot of practice. I've knit many sweaters, which I still would like to do an episode to show you the ones that I have here with me, and I can talk to you about which ones fit and which ones don't fit. I don't really wear, because there are some, definitely, but it just takes some trial and error, and I think really it comes down to knitting a swatch and knowing what your gauge is, because you could spend hours knitting a sweater and just be dissatisfied with it in the end because it doesn't fit. But if you know your gauge and you know how many stitches per inch you should get in the end, then you can decide, you know, okay, around my waist, do I want it to be fitted exactly to my body? So if your waist is whatever size, do you want to have it be the fabric to be equal to that, or do you want to have an extra inch or an extra 3 inches or an extra 10 inches? That kind of thing. For me, I prefer kind of fitted sweaters, not skin tight sweaters. I still wear shirts underneath them, but I do prefer, form fitted, I guess, sweaters. And for me, that means that for my hem and on my hips, I usually have about 1 inch to 0 to 1 inches of negative ease. That means my hips, which are 32 3/4 inches, I usually knit my sweater to be 32 inches or 31 3/4, kind of just depending on how the stitch count works out. Because I don't want my hem to be floating around, really, unless I'm going for an oversized sweater look. If it's a fitted sweater, I would like to have the hem fit. So yeah, that's sort of my rule of thumb for that. And then I think about around my waist, I usually want to have 2 to 3 inches of positive ease, just so it's comfortable. And then I do some math between how many stitches I have at my hips to how many stitches I want to get to at my waist. And I do those decreases over how much vertical length I have. So I kind of go through like that, and that's how I do it. I guess what my advice would be is just to start reading and watching videos and learning as much as you can about it and practicing. Kid sweaters are also a good way to practice different techniques, but kids aren't as shapely as adults are usually, so usually they don't require as many sort of modifications for adjusting for like waists or bust or anyway, I hope that helps answer your question. I think that's it for this week in terms of questions, and I thought I would just give you a little update about this week in Stockholm. So, like I said before, my test has been delayed, which is a little frustrating, but we still had a party yesterday, which was already planned, to celebrate the end of the class, and it was a lot of fun. We had, one of my classmates had everyone over. Not everyone in the class came, but about half the class came. And we had a nice dinner party, and we had come up with a Mediterranean theme, so everyone brought something to share with that sort of theme in mind. And I made spanakopita, these little phyllo dough pastry triangles with spinach and feta, an egg, and onion on the inside, and they were delicious. And there was just a lot of really good food, which was fun. And we had hoped to be celebrating the end of the class, but whatever. It is what it is. I have also been using a lot of recipes from the Minimalist Baker recently. I know Molly from A Homespun House had talked about her before, and my sister has been using her recipes a lot, and I really enjoy them as well. She has desserts and stuff, which is what I think of when I think of baker, but she also has, I mean, it's mostly entrees and appetizers and food. So I am planning on going back to being a vegetarian in 2016. So many of her recipes are vegetarian and vegan, although she always includes notes about when she's made substitutions, what she was substituting if you don't want to make the vegan substitution. So yeah, that's pretty much this week in Stockholm. I wanted to say a huge thank you to a lovely viewer who sent me some patterns this week. That was really sweet and came at the perfect time yesterday when I was I just can't believe the exam was postponed, and we were at school for 2 hours waiting to take the exam until they finally made the decision to move it to Tuesday. So anyway, I'm looking forward to having some time to knit this week, and then to having a little break where at least, even though I'll still have assignments, I won't have to wake up and be in school for 2 weeks. So that will be a nice little break. I hope you are having a nice holiday season and that it's feeling Christmassy there. We got some Christmas lights. I don't remember if I had them last time again. But I have some lights around the window that I'm facing, and we also have some little stars in the doorway over there. So yeah, I think pretty soon we will be heading over to Thomas's parents' house for a couple of days for the holidays, and then it'll be back to school, but hopefully it will be a nice little break. So I hope you have plenty of time to knit and enjoy the holidays, and I will see you next time. Happy knitting. Bye.